It's been a while since we talked about Sony phones, but I think that we'll probably hear something about the Xperia 1 Mark 7 probably in the pretty near future. Why is that? Well, because the Sony Xperia phones that come out early in the summer, May June timeframe, we're already halfway through March, and according to a pretty notable leaker guy, his name is I believe Ricciolo, which whatever, however he came up with that name, says that the phone is coming. Now, we've seen some major downsizing from just 7 models a few years ago to now we just got 2 this last year, and I think Sony's on the right path there. But the biggest disappointment with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6 wasn't the fact that they ditched 4K for 1080p. It's not that they made the wider screen, but the fact that there was no US model. And the first half of 2024, Sony actually had a 3.5% global market share, and they sold about 3.5 million phones, which is way more than I expected that they would. So I think that the strategy for 2025 will be a new flagship phone and maybe one 10 series or maybe one 5 series phone. So they've got the 10 series, the 5 series, and then they've got the flagship series, the 1.6, and then presumably the 1.7. And yeah, I think that we're going to get it, and I think probably we'll see something soon. I would expect that maybe the next 3 or 4 weeks we'll probably finally see some leaks. Maybe we'll see something pop up, the FCC, or go through testing or something like that to confirm it. Because we've got all these leaks, oh, not leaks, but rumors. Like what we expect, people think that we're probably going to see the Exmor sensor in all the cameras, which would be good because the Exmor sensor is fantastic. We already got the increased continuous zoom that we got, and we got the telephoto macro, like lots of cool things with the Xperia 1 Mark 6. And as much as I lamented the fact that we went from the slimmer 21 by 9 cinematic aspect ratio to the more wider one, I actually really liked it once I actually got my hands on it and started using it. And I like the brightness. I like the screen. And you really can't even tell that it's a 1080p screen. It's something that surprised me because it looks so good. It looks sharp. I like the Sony UI. I like that it's very much bare bones, very stock, not a whole lot going on here. They've been better with updates than ever. Their commitment to software has increased. And things I would really like to see as we go into the rest of 2025, as we go into the Xperia 1 Mark 7. I would love to see the Exmor sensors come to all 3 of the cameras. And there's even talk that maybe they might kind of change the camera landscape up, maybe change the order. I don't really think so because this whole triple stack thing is working pretty well for them, and they've been doing this for a while. I'd like to see us get facial recognition. I'd like to see a better selfie. Now, they put a lot of emphasis on the primary cameras the last couple of years, and they've done a good job. I like the consolidation of the camera apps and all that good stuff into one app. I like the changes they made there for simplification, but also still pro controls. But yeah, it's definitely lagging or lacking in the selfie department. So if we got a better selfie and we got facial unlock, which I don't know why they don't do it. I really don't know. I'd like to ask somebody at Sony why they don't. Maybe someone knows better than I do. I really love we have the fingerprint scanner built into the power button. That's something that I like. It's a Sony feature I love. I like that you've got the expandable SD card slot. I like that you've got the headphone jack that you can use for your headphones, your earphones, or for a line-in microphone, which this has pretty good sound pickup too. You can do it that way. The speakers, they got way better. The brightness, the screen, it got better. There's a lot of things. I said the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6 might just have been the most upgraded phone last year. They made so many changes to it. They fixed the heat problems. We got the great Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 chip in there, and they did a lot of things right. But the frustrating thing was for the people who care about this phone in the United States, you had to pick one up, an international model, and that caused problems with 5G this year. 5G, I was able to get it to work kind of, but you had to go through and do some kind of changes in the software, which through a weird menu that you have to put in weird numbers in the dialer to get into. So it wasn't exactly intuitive. It wasn't exactly the simplest thing. And anytime there was a software update, if I remember correctly, to go back and change it, I just gave up. I've just been using it on voice over LTE. I haven't cared about 5G that much because I didn't really notice the speeds were all that improved. But I do miss having those certifications. I miss the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 5 with the network compatibility and having the better modem in there. Well, not so much the modem. The modem in the Xperia 1 Mark 6 is fine. It's just the fact that it wasn't whitelisted and it wasn't working with the 5G properly. So, yeah, Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6, great phone. And if you're outside the United States and you're using one, you're probably really enjoying it. And I like that they boosted the software updates a little bit, but it still needs to get better. I'd really like to see them at 5. I think 5 years of operating system updates and 5 years of security patches is the sweet spot. Even if they did 4 years of operating system updates, 5 years of security patches, I don't think people would really bat an eyelash, especially if they continue to be up to speed with these updates and they're putting them out in a timely manner. They've done a good job with that. And I really like the phones. I'm probably one of the biggest Sony advocates left out there on the block. I love the Xperia 1 Mark 6, the 1 Mark 5. As much as I hated the heat problems with 1 Mark 4, I certainly loved the purple model that I had. And ever since the Xperia 1 Mark 3, these phones, I fell in love with them. I like them. I like what they stand for. I like the dedicated shutter button. I like the cinematic photography and cinematic video stuff you can do with them. And when I have one of these phones, I feel like I've got like a legit DSLR in my pocket, but I like the complexity and I like the things that you can do with them if you really know what you're doing with the camera, which, I mean, I'm not the greatest, but I love fooling around with them and messing with the camera stuff. So it's one of those things where they've done a lot of good things. Like, they really have done a lot of good things in the last few years. A lot of the stuff hasn't really been noticed outside the Sony community, and always, they get sandbagged on. Of course, they're expensive. And they get ragged on because they're expensive, and maybe it's not always the best in every category or the best in every area. And I've not said that the Sony phones are the best phones. I've said that they're my favorite phones in many instances, but I never said they're the best phone. Even like this last year, I said the Pixel 9 Pro XL was the best phone. I think it was phone of the year, and it had significant improvements. It's such a great phone, and it's so easy for most people. You just tap the shutter button, take a photo, and it looks amazing. And I love, though, that Sony has stuck to the more manual stuff, the more hardware-based camera capabilities, and they've been very thoughtful in the AI department, not going full on with the massive processing. And that's one of the criticisms that you get with the Pixel phone. Like, people, I don't know where I put mine. Oh, it's in my bag. I'm going out of town. But it's one of those things where people don't like the processing. They think it looks over sharpened, over processed, not natural. And that's one thing I love with the Sony cameras. They look natural. They do, and they look very sharp, and you can tell that it's got a great sensor and a great lens and all those things. Sony really believes in camera hardware, and they make some of the best stuff that's out there. So seeing them continue to evolve the Exmor stuff, continuing the evolution with the continuous zoom, continuing and now building in some AI stuff on top of the expertise they have in the camera department to make the best photos and the best videos. I am interested to see where we go with that, because I like better trying to exploit software and over process everything out of a sensor. I want to see what the sensor can do, and then we'll do a thoughtful application to try and maybe fine tune things, take out some error, maybe remove some noise, which is a good thing that the Exmor sensor does. Is good at low light, good at taking out noise, and it just really does a good job of creating a real lifelike photo. So I'm excited. And I'm hopeful at the same time. I would really like to see, I think Sony, they did take a step back. They kind of had to regroup, consolidate, rework their action plan. But I'd like to see them branch back out, offer a US model, at least a global unlocked model that would work, presumably, at least on T-Mobile with 5G and things like that here. I think that would go a long way. I think that would make people happy. And I think we'll see what we get with the challenges here, because the new ISP that we've seen in the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor has been really good. It's really, I think, done a good job with some of the phones that have been using it. So I think that the hardware is there on the processor side. And then if Sony can go ahead and apply their magic when it comes to the camera stuff, I think that we can really take things to the next level with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 7. And the promise of that is something that has me excited. I hope we hear something about it soon. I don't think it's canceled. I believe that we'll probably see something in the last one, I believe, launched around June. So we'll see. And as soon as we get some information on it, I will be the first one as possibly can get here to share the news with you. But yeah, I love the Xperia 1 Mark 6, the Mark 5, two fantastic phones. Let's see what we get for 2025 and how soon this Xperia 1 Mark 7 comes along. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, are you excited? Are you looking forward to what we might possibly get in hopefully a few months? Let's talk about it in the comments section. If you enjoy the video, of course, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.